Good morning, scholars. Today we're going to continue our way through Farce Homeric Greek, a book for beginners, looking a little deeper at the infinitive, especially the uses of the infinitive that we've seen so far in our text, or we'll see soon. Okay, so again, the infinitive is often thought to be a mood. There are four moods in Greek, strictly speaking: the indicative, the subjunctive, the optative, and the imperative. And these moods are called finite because the person and number are defined by the ending. The infinitive, however, which is strictly a verbal noun, is too sometimes classed as a mood. Now, the only tenses which occur in the infinitive are the present, the future, the aorist, the perfect, and the future perfect. The middle and passive differ in form in the aorist only. Now, in the subjunctive, the optative, the imperative, and the infinitive, the tenses themselves do not indicate time. They simply denote what's called aspect. So the present in these moods denotes an action simply as continued. The aorist denotes an action simply as brought to pass. And the perfect denotes an action simply as completed. Now, we've looked at the endings of the infinitive, but there really are only four: epsilon nu, alpha iota, nu alpha iota, or sigma theta alpha iota. And these spread themselves over the various tenses as we've gone into earlier. But this is a very good section in Smyth to refer to, simply because it gathers all this information together in a very elegant way. Now, as for the historical development of the infinitive was originally a verbal noun in the dative, in part possibly also in the locative case. The use to express purpose is a survival of the primitive meaning from which all the other widely diverging uses were developed in a manner no longer always clear to us. But the two or four meaning seen in mantanen hekomen, we have come to learn, we have come for learning, can also be discerned in dunamai edain, I have the power for seeing, and then I can see. So as early as Homer, when the dativo meaning had been in part obscured, the infinitive was employed as nominative to express the subject, and as accusative to express the object. After Homer, however, the infinitive came to be used with the neuter article, the substantive idea thus gaining indefiniteness. And this, as I said, is popular with Thucydides and Demosthenes. The article must be used with when the infinitive stands as an object in the genitive or dative, and when it depends on prepositions. Now, generally speaking, the infinitive is used as subject, as predicate, and to supplement the meaning of words and clauses. The negative of the infinitive is may, but u can be used when it's come over from the finite mood of direct discourse and is retained when it's put in indirect discourse and assumes the infinitive form. But sometimes even here, may is used in place of this u. Now, so this infinitive as the object of indirect discourse, this is one of the two sides of the way the infinitive gets classified, either as object of indirect discourse or a whole another group of usages which are not in indirect discourse. So you have the infinitive in indirect discourse, and then this whole slew of other usages not in indirect discourse. So, Smyth 2016. The infinitive is used as the object of verbs of saying and thinking. Such infinitives denote both time and stage of action. Okay, so let's look at this subsection A. The finite verb of a sentence placed in dependence on a verb of saying or thinking that requires the infinitive becomes infinitive. Which infinitive stands in the relation of a substantive as subject or object of the leading verb. So once the verb of the finite statement of direct speech is transformed into an infinitive in indirect speech, as infinitive, it will be functionally either the subject or object of the leading verb, as we'll see in these examples. So commonly as object. Thus in Kyros Nike, Cyrus is victorious. Kyros Nike. When made the object of pese, he says, it becomes a part of a new sentence, pese chiron nikan. Pese chiron nikan, in which chiron nikan, nikan being an infinitive, is the object of pese. Pese chiron nikan. Chiron nikan is the object of pese. But if you turn this into a passive, as it becomes subject. So as subject when the verb of saying is passive. Thus, in legatai chiron nikan, legatai, it is said, chiron nikan, the last two words form the subject of legatai. So in our passage, in this early part of the Iliad, we have we see Pantes archaioi epeupe mesan aidestai dierea. I've changed it up a bit to just make it clearer. But all the Achaeans, they said in agreement, what did they say? Aidestai dierea, to honor the priest, that Agamemnon, that they should honor the priest. So we see this expression, aidestai dierea, serving as the object, expressing what they said. They said that they should honor the priest. And that's an example of the infinitive used as the object in indirect discourse. Now, like I say, that's the way the uses of the infinitive are divided up, i.e. indirect in indirect discourse and not in indirect discourse. So we see here, Smyth 1989, the infinitive as object not in indirect discourse is used after almost any verb that requires another verb to complete its meaning. The tenses of this infinitive are timeless and denote only stage of action. So here I've cut and pasted from the table of contents of Smyth just to see how he breaks this down. These infinitives that are not in indirect discourse. So we have infinitives after verbs of will and desire. We have infinitives after other verbs. We have infinitives after adjectives, adverbs, and substantives. We have infinitives of purpose and result. We have a thing called the absolute infinitive that Plato, for instance, likes. And then we have the infinitives in commands, wishes, and exclamations. So this whole section on the infinitive, once your Greek is further along, it's a very good bit to read in Smyth because it just brings a lot of loose ends together and gives you an overview of how the infinitive functions. I remember when I read this sat down and read this, it really did put a lot of things together in an organized way. Okay, so the infinitive as subject. The infinitive may be used as subject, especially with quasi-impersonal verbs and expressions. So this first example from Smyth, grammata maten day. Day is a quasi-impersonal verb, meaning it is necessary. And so grammata, letters, maten, to learn, it is necessary. And this gets translated, to learn to read is necessary. Okay, grammata maten day. Or second example, what must be done? Te kre poien. Te kre poien. What is it necessary to do? Okay. But in the Iliad itself, we see this quasi-impersonal verb handane, hendane, it was pleasing, hendane, and we see it assuming the earlier subject of what was earlier the object of epeupemesan, i.e. aidestai tierea. We see it later as actually taking that as subject. So al uk agamemnone hendane. But it was not pleasing to Agamemnon. What was not pleasing to him? Aidestai tierea. So here we have an example where the infinitive expression is serving as subject. And if you're interested in the dative complement here, Agamemnoni, consult Smyth 1460, 1461. Okay, so again, we have the object infinitive after verbs of will and desire. And so Smyth 1991. Verbs of will or desire, and their opposites, are often followed by an infinitive. The infinitive with a subject accusative denotes that something should or may be or should or may be done. The negative is may. So the first example of here is with the verb etelon, which means they were willing, and it takes, just like in English, I'm willing to marry her. Etelon autu akuen, they were willing to listen to him. Autu akuen, to hear him. So 1994, under verbs of will or desire are included verbs expressing an activity to the end that something shall or shall not be done. And this is what we see in this opening bit of the Iliad. He says these examples of these such verbs are didomi, to give, to offer, diamakomai, to struggle against, and others. But in lines 18a and 19 of first book of the Iliad, we see a form of didome with or followed by these infinitives, which explain what the gods themselves, what Chrysain is hoping or wishing that the gods will give to the Achaeans. So humin men doi ein, ek persai priamoio palen, u doi kad ikestai. So here we have, again, Chrysain, this is Chrysain speaking, may the gods give to you, the Achaeans, ek persai, this is the first aorist infinitive, to utterly sack Priamoio Palen, the city of Priam, and eu doikad hikestai. And hikestai, you can tell by the accent that it's a second aorist infinitive from ikneomai, and to arrive homeward in good fashion. Okay, humin men doyen deoi, ek persai priamoio palen, eu doikade ekestai. So here we have that example of infinitives after a verb of will and desire may the gods give to you, to win the lottery and to live long, etc., etc. Pretty much English can do the same thing. Okay, and the infinitive of purpose and result. Here we go to Goodwin. Goodwin's moves and tenses. He hits this nail right on the head. He says in section 775, the simple infinitive in Homer may express a result as well as a purpose. Since hoste, which what you'd see in Attic, is seldom used there in Homeric Greek in the sense of so as. It, the infinitive, thus follows many expressions which would not allow it in Attic Greek, that is in Homer. So here we have our line 8, tis tars pho et on erede sun eke magestai, who brought them into conflict with the result, i.e. so as to contend. Okay? So, tis tars pho et on erede sun eke magestai, we have an example of the infinitive expressing purpose or actually result here. Okay, and now finally the infinitive as imperative. That's from Smyth, 213. The infinitive in commands. The infinitive may be used for the second person of the imperative. The person addressed is regarded as the subject. This infinitive is commoner in poetry than in prose, where it has a solemn or formal force. So this first example Smyth offers is from the Iliad. Darson nun Diomedes epitro esen makestai. So makestai is the infinitive of makeomai, to fight, and it's used here as to represent an imperative. With good courage now, Diomedes, fight against the Trojans. Darson nun Diomedes epitro esen makestai. So, in Farr's text of the Iliad, Book 1, line 20, he prints two such infinitives serving as imperatives, where Chrysein is employing the Greeks and Agamemnon and Menelaus. Paida demoi lusai te pilein ta poina de kestai. And we see lusai, a first aorist infinitive, and de kestai, present infinitive, being used here as with the force of imperatives. Now, modern textual critics or people who've done editions of Homer since Farr generally read it differently. They read, as we see at the bottom, Paida de moi lusai te pelein, ta da poina de kestai. And the lusaite is the optative, the aorist optative of polite command or suggestion. And that coincides with what Smyth describes at 2013a. He says that this infinitive of command may be used in conjunction with an imperative, or actually in this case with an optative that serves as an imperative. But the example that Smyth gives us is a good one from Aristophanes. He's always very entertaining. Akuete loi kata ta patria tus koas pinen. Listen to the people. Drink your draughts in the manner of your fathers. Hear ye, good people, drink the pitchers as our sires drank. Leoi must actually be a vocative here. Hear, good people, drink the pitchers as our sires drank. Akuete, leoi, and that is an imperative, akuete, kata ta patria tu koas pinen. So, we see that the infinitive either alone or the infinitive kind of set up that expectation having been prepared by something that is either an imperative itself, as an akuete, or lusaite, optative serving as a polite imperative or request, that these are where you'd find the infinitive doing the work of an imperative. Okay, so here's a picture of my hero, Mr. Smyth, and my favorite book, his grammar. That's a good look at the infinitive, and I encourage you to continue to work hard and to write these little references in pencil in the margin of your Smyth, so as you page it, you can refer cross-reference to the Iliad as we exposit these occurrences. Okay, so continue to work hard, have a great day, and be happy. Bye-bye.